my name is Magnolia Heaton. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a shamanic practitioner. And where do I start? Today's video, I think, is about consumption. I imagine that you've probably heard talks of like it's important to pay attention to what you consume, right? And this is a very, 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 very brief overview of how it impacts us. So I think from the physical level, of course, the foods that we consume impact us, right? If we're eating certain chemicals, they cause certain chemical reactions in our body. Whether or not we have enough nutrients, minerals, vitamins, etc., will impact our bodies accordingly. Whether or not we're drinking enough water, all of that matters, right? So these are the basics, the root foundation of things. There are foods that we can eat that will thin out our intestinal lining. By the way, none of this is medical advice or any other kind of advice. It's just educational. But I'm sharing what I've learned. And yeah, and so it can make it so that all of the toxins that are in your intestine can go out into your bloodstream, and then it can go out into different parts of your body, different organs, your brain, your heart, your liver, etc. And so it can start to cause more of a toxic environment. And from what I understand, it can even lead to tumors and things like that, right? There's like, from what I've heard, things that, I mean, if you want to look into it, there's this book called Super Gut. I really highly recommend it. I think it's very rich in explaining exactly why you should do these practices, make certain dietary changes, etc. I've actually been doing it. What's today? Today's the end of March. I've been doing it since the beginning of July, so I'm going on 9 months of eliminating all grains, by which I mean wheat, barley, oats, rice, corn, all of that stuff, and seed oils almost completely. I've probably had them 3 times since then, the seed oils. But yeah, and it's made a really big difference, actually. I feel way better. I have way more energy. I have less joint pain and things like that. Anyway, but it all matters, right? It's all information. I think if anything, the takeaway from today would be is that everything you consume is information. And your body's so receptive in so many ways, right? So you're receiving it, say food, right? You receive it through your mouth. It goes into your gums. It goes down your throat. There's so much involved there. It goes down into your body. And then, so that's physically speaking. I would say even television, and this is kind of what motivated me to start recording this video. It's very impactful. Media in general is really impactful. I know people talk about it. I think to put it more objectively, I would say the images that you receive are perceived by your brain and so interpreted, and then you develop certain schemas, right? Certain biases, etc., based off of the stimuli that you receive. Either you receive stimuli that align with you and you're like, cool, and then maybe that strengthens your value system, or it's discordant with what your values are, and I guess even then it can still get you clear on your values, but it can elicit a lot of emotions, right? Maybe you're like, oh my God, this is so cool. Finally, people get me, yay. Or you could be like, oh, this makes me so mad. No one understands me. Or anything in between, right? You could be irritated, anxious. You could be scared. You know, there's research that says that people who experience a lot of trauma are very prone to watching a lot of horror movies, because what it does is like it raises cortisol levels, and I'm not exactly sure what all else it does, but it like kind of plays on the whole fight flight system, that kind of thing, and that can make it really addicting because it raises it's the cortisol, so then it raises adrenaline and different things like that, right? I think in particular that's for people who have kind of a higher baseline and kind of have a lot of anxiety or chronic stress, or are pretty adrenalized anyway, right? I want to say that that also impacts you energetically, right? Because what are you doing when you're watching these kinds of things? What happens is you're allowing it into your consciousness. So then, let's say you're watching a scary movie or a show or something. You're like, okay. So if I go to a remote area out in nature, in the mountains, I'm going to get kidnapped. Because that's what happens, is people get kidnapped in the mountains, right? And then if you watch enough of that, or you ruminate enough on that, then you're perpetuating that belief system, and then you're energizing that, right? And then that's a point of attraction. I don't want to elaborate on that. I feel like if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. Just some food for thought, right? Whereas if you were to consume media that is kind, sweet, romantic, that kind of thing, then that would impact your point of attraction too, right? And you would be more likely to be an optimist watching it, and then you'd be more likely to be an optimist probably going out of watching it, right? Selecting it in the first place and then after having watched it. And then music, I've been thinking about that too, right? If you're listening to it, again, you're receiving it. I had some thoughts on like when we experience verbal abuse, right? Or compliments or anything like that. We're receiving it, at least through here, right? We're still perceiving it. Whether or not we tune it out, we're still receiving it through our ears, our sensory organs that are our ears. And it impacts our physiology. And so music does the same too, right? I mean, it's just an invitation to consider and to think critically about what you're consuming, right? On one level, it's the actual lyrics themselves. And then there's, are you repeating the lyrics? Are you singing to them? Because those are affirmations, right? Are you singing country songs about how you're poor and you're drinking to get by and that kind of thing? Are you singing country songs that are about romance and how much you love your wife? I don't know, right? There's a lot. Obviously, music is a very wide range. So for one, it's the content, but also the frequency of things, like the literal frequency. I've seen studies on pieces of sand placed on surfaces, and then music is played, and then the sand takes different geometric shapes depending on the frequency of the music itself. And I've also seen studies where the same thing is done with water. There's water that is exposed to certain types of music, maybe more mellow, maybe more like classical music or romantic type of thing, and then contrasted to heavy metal, right? And so what is the whole point of that? Also, actually, I've seen it with metal itself. I don't know if it's like kind of alloyed metals or something like that, like kind of a liquid metal, and what that does, right? And even the same kind of music being juxtaposed. What's the point of that? The point of that is to say that our body is made up of these different elements, and to say, I guess the deduction that they take from there is that when we're exposed to these types of music, etc., that impacts our cells, actually. So the media that we consume can, I mean, I don't know, right? I don't know that. I agree. It feels true to me. But it can impact the way that we think, the way that we feel, the things that we attract, and then our actual bodies. It can also impact our emotions, right? For some people, heavy metal relaxes them because there's a lot of anger within. And so it's a means of expression, of channeling that anger, right? For some people, it irritates them. For some people, it's overstimulating. For some people, it scares them. So, of course, music can be really emotionally evocative. Same with TV, right? Lots of emotions can be stirred from there. Movies, things like that. And I think the same goes for relationships. The people that you surround yourself with, they say, I don't know who they is. I just know that I've seen it. I remember one time I was working, right, as a community support worker, and I went into a school, and I saw this poster, and I wish I could find it. I always try to find the graphic, but I can never find it. And it was a pencil that was dull, and it was surrounded by 5 pencils that were really sharp. And that was to say that, like, be careful or be mindful, pay attention to the people you surround yourself with, right? If you are the weakest link in that case, and you're surrounding yourself by people who are where you want to be, if you're reaching up, essentially, then they're going to naturally lift you up, right? As a side note to that side note, that's how frequencies work, right? I've been trying to think of the word because it hasn't been coming to me. I've been trying to think of the word for the past 3 days. Entrainment. There you go. It's the law of entrainment, right? Higher frequencies lift up lower frequencies. And so there's that. In frequencies, anything you want it to be. It can be literal sound frequencies. It can be just energy, right? It can be thoughts, anything like that. And so, yes. It really matters the people that you surround yourself with. I think I've been posting on this on Instagram a little bit. But like really, right? If you're trying to work on integrating past trauma, if you're trying to heal intergenerational patterns, etc., if you're trying to cultivate self-awareness and things like this, if you're trying to leave behind addictions, and you look around and you find that the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? Whether it's physically, whether it's engaging with them on social media or texting them, or even just people that you look up to, like videos, other content, podcasts, things like that. Like, what are you consuming? Who are you surrounded by? Really. Take some inventory. Maybe take some time right now. Maybe pause the video and consider the 5 people you spend the most time with. Then ask yourself, what do they bring to the table? What are they contributing to my life? Right? And then if you like the answers, great. How can you cultivate more of that? And if you don't, why not? Right? What's happening? Are they detracting from your life instead of contributing to your life? Or what is actually happening? Right? And if that's the case, then what are you wanting to shift? What are you willing to shift from that? Maybe this is a message that supports you in kind of validating what your intuition was already saying, of like, okay, cool. I was contemplating leaving this relationship or distancing myself from this person, and I guess this helps me see that maybe it might be a good idea. Maybe not. Maybe it is an invitation to support you in identifying what your needs and boundaries are within those relationships or relationship, and to advocate for yourself. Hey, I've been thinking about this, and this isn't working for me, this specific behavior, and I'm wondering what we can do to shift that, or if you're willing to meet that need, or maybe not. Open dialogue. Like, what do you have to lose, right? A person who doesn't resonate with you, a person who brings you down, how big of a loss is that? Of course, it can be complicated, and I don't mean to oversimplify it, right? For example, in an extreme case like divorce, like, there's a lot to lose there, right? I'm not minimizing that. it's just food for thought. Obviously, this is a really general video. Any other thoughts that I have right now? I don't know. I mean, just to be mindful. And then, like, I mean, just really, how are you spending your time, though, right? What are your goals, and how are you spending your time? And does that align with your goals? And in which ways yes, and in which ways no? I think these are important questions. If you're saying, okay, I work 40 hours a week, and I want to have my own business, and in 5 years, I want to have fully passive income, and I want to make 6 figures, great. What are you doing to achieve that, right? Are you scrolling mindlessly through TikTok or something? Are you following people who are in those niches that you're seeking? Are you reading business books? Are you listening to podcasts and things like that in your free time, right? Social media isn't all bad. I know people tend to say it is. It's not all bad. Things are generally not super black and white. And this is a thing that I aim to bring in the channel, is balance to people's lives. I don't know. Just some food for thought. And yeah, right. Just like where's your attention going? Your time is your most valuable asset, right? Who you spend it with, how you spend it, what you're doing. Are you dedicating time to yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you expecting other people to spend time with you, but you're not spending time with you? These are just questions. Maybe you are, and that's great. Are you wanting to achieve your goals, but you're choosing to sleep in instead of getting up and going to the gym at 4 in the morning, right? I saw this concept recently of taking, like when you're tired or something, taking a rest, right? You're taking a beat, taking a pause, whatever, rather than quitting, which I like, and that's allowed me to get up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym. Anyhow, that's all that I have for today. In general, I have a lot of interests. I function better off of questions. If you have specific questions that you want me to kind of address in upcoming videos, happy to do so. Otherwise, I'm just going to be kind of scattered on the different content until I figure out what resonates most. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please like, share, subscribe. And feel free to go to Love is Healing LLC for more info or booking or anything like that. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.